1989 was a revolutionary year. Several countries broke their chains of communism. In June, the Tiananmen Square protests rocked the world as Chinese citizens demanded for democracy. The leader, Deng Xiaoping, resigned. In November, as a result of political changes in Germany, the Berlin Wall was opened, a huge step in ridding communism from Europe. Later in November, the Czech parliament ceased the involvement of communism in former Czechoslovakia as a result of the Velvet Revolution. Finally, the 1989 Romanian Revolution occurred in December, paving the way for the decline of communism in Central Europe. The communist influence in Romania began in 1944, which was during World War II, when the Soviet Red Army invaded Romania. They took over Bucharest, the capital of Romania, as well as executed Romanian General Ion Antonescu. Even after the war, the Soviets started rigging Romanian elections in order to get a communist president. After a few years, communist presidents such as George Horthy rejected Soviet influence and imposed national communism instead. After Horthy, Nicolae Ceausescu became president. In December of 1989, the Romanian people led a revolution in Bucharest against their communist president Nicolae Ceausescu, who was greedy and corrupt. This led to the overthrow and execution of Ceausescu and his wife, and as a result, the one-party system was removed by the National Salvation Front, resulting in democracy for the people. Nicolae Ceausescu, who was president for 25 years, was a greedy, corrupt, and oppressive leader. He ran a cruel reign, even to the point of forcing women to have at least 4 children. There was a huge amount of orphans and disease as a result of this cruelty. He became president through an election rigged by fellow communists. He controlled people's personal freedom, such as freedom of speech and other basic liberties. He ran an orthodox communist regime, which was filled with corruption and inequality. In addition, he ruined the economy as well as caused major food shortages. He drove his country backwards. He forced people to rally for him. If they did not follow his orders, they were executed. Interviewee Alina Montano, who lived in Romania for 28 years, said, quote, "He was in love with himself, a classic dictator who over the years was able to introduce a very efficient dictatorship regime," end quote. Interviewee Walter J. Mirsina-Pines, a university professor, simply calls him a competent criminal. 6 members of the Communist Party wrote their complaints to the communist president Ceausescu. They said he does not observe the constitution. They also mentioned that there are severe financial issues in Romania caused by Ceausescu. This was the first time that opposition to Ceausescu had been publicized, although Romanians have agreed with this for a long time. A Hungarian pastor, Reverend Laszlo Tokes, spoke out against Ceausescu's regime to a group of 10,000 people in the city of Timișoara. They chanted "Down with Ceausescu" among other anti-communist messages. Ceausescu's agents came to attack the protesters, and Tokes was arrested. Soon, the protests spread around the country, even to the capital city, Bucharest. The violence continued as more people joined the riots. The death count rose day by day. Military tanks and the militia were brought out by the government to stop the protesters. Many buildings were destroyed and there was tons of chaos. Interviewee Walter J. Mirsina-Pines was involved, quote, "only to the extent that I roamed the streets on foot, ducked to avoid shots or what sounded like shots, and being careful not to step on dead bodies," end quote. Alina Montano was not involved, but she watched it on CNN. She described that we were watching the fall of communism. Ceausescu held a huge rally to show how popular he was. He forced people to cheer for him so people watching at home would be convinced how great he is. However, the cheers in the crowd dissipated and were replaced by boos. Ceausescu's wife, Elena, who was also deputy prime minister, told everyone to stop while Ceausescu sheepishly looked on. The television transmission ended for a few minutes, but it continued soon. Ceausescu promised the crowd that he would help them, but the protesters continued rioting all over the country. Some soldiers in the Romanian army actually joined the demonstrations.
Hallo! 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 Tobias! Tobias!
Ceausescu and his wife tried to escape by helicopter, but were captured 45 miles away from Bucharest. Demonstrators took over a television station to alert the people that Ceausescu was captured. Huge crowds appeared to show support for the revolution.
An aide held a gun to the pilot's head.
The riots and savagery continued, but the National Salvation Front was created. The leader was Ion Iliescu, a communist. Despite his communist beliefs, he was against Ceausescu. The National Salvation Front's symbol was the Romanian flag with a hole where the communist emblem was, according to Marina Tuciuci. The front held a trial for Ceausescu and his wife. They were convicted of multiple crimes against humanity, including genocide. On the 24th, Ceausescu and his wife were executed, ending a reign of terror. The next day, citizens found out about the execution. Due to the revolution, Romania was freed from a terrible leader. However, there is still some corruption, according to Marina Tuciuci. She says, quote, "There is still massive corruption in the government, and it's hard to get a good-paying job without connections," end quote. On the other hand, the National Salvation Front got rid of the one-party system, leading to fair democracy. Due to the revolution, basic freedoms were created as a result of political changes, such as freedom of speech and freedom of the press. In addition, the economy was improved. Without the revolution, Ceausescu could have continued ruining the country, but the Romanian people took a stand as a nation to challenge authority and stand up to their rights. The revolution was a group effort that ultimately led for greater change. Alina Montano wisely said, "In some respect, I feel lucky that I had my past, since that gives me the opportunity to better appreciate my present."